Shah gradually shifted towards the foreign powers.
But the Shah was not strong enough to challenge Mossadegh directly. When he was stripped of his few remaining powers, he even offered to leave the country.
Iranians referred to the Shah as the suitcase monarch. That is to say, he always had his bags packed. He was ready to go.
All through his life, he would not stand against strong pressure. When there was no pressure, he was a very strong-willed man, but as soon as there was a bit of adversity, he would tend to bend.
But in Washington, President Eisenhower had become convinced that Mossadegh was about to deliver Iran to the communists. With the active encouragement of the British, he decided to play the Shah card. A plan was drawn up by the CIA and by MI6. The Shah would dismiss Mossadegh while a mob, funded by the British and the Americans, took to the streets to neutralize Mossadegh's supporters. But the so-called counter-coup misfired. Mossadegh's supporters flooded onto the streets, and the Shah's supporters went underground. The Shah fled to Rome with Queen Soraya. He appeared to have lost everything, but Mossadegh's victory was to be short-lived. 2 days later, pro-monarchy demonstrators, backed by army units loyal to the Shah, took over the streets of Tehran. Some of the crowd had Secret Service dollars in their pockets, but many were genuine supporters of the monarchy. Mossadegh went into hiding, but was soon captured, put on trial, and placed under house arrest.
The stay of the Shah of Persia and Queen Soraya in Rome was of short duration, for first reports of Dr. Mossadegh having won a victory were quickly reversed, and from the turmoil of Tehran, news came that the royalist coup had been successful after all.
For the Shah, 1953 marked a fresh start. The counter-coup had shown that the West was prepared to back him. But he was now also convinced that the Iranian people loved him. In a broadcast to the nation, he said, "Until now, I was a hereditary king, but now I am an elected one. You have elected me." But 1953 left a bitter legacy.
The military coup of 1953 was actually a turning point, because for the first time in a third world country like in Iran, we tried to establish a democracy. And it was Shah and his foreign supporters who killed the democracy in Iran. That was the end of his legitimacy.
The Shah's legitimacy was also undermined when the CIA began claiming the whole credit for the counter-coup, suggesting it was their dollars rather than the Shah's popularity that had brought the people out on the streets. After 1953, America became a major player in Iran, pouring in aid and military advisors, and helping to set up a secret police known as SAVAK.
The thing to do was to help him stay in power and see to it that he stayed in power. There was no sense in going through this whole exercise and then having it failed in that fashion.
But the Shah had no intention of failing. Dismissing independent-minded politicians and surrounding himself with compliant ministers and technocrats, he was at last able to start running the country in a way his father would have recognized.
When he come back and he see the love of the people, he felt that now he has to emerge as a strong man and he has to come as a leader, whether people like it or not. Since the people loves him, he has a duty for them.
The new start was symbolized by a new queen. Though the Shah was deeply in love with Soraya, they were unable to have children. The question of the succession again became urgent. Reluctantly, the Shah agreed to take another wife. The couple were divorced in 1958, and the following year there was a third royal wedding in Tehran. Farah Diba was part of a new generation of Western-educated Iranians. An art student in Paris, she brought a cultured, liberal influence to bear on her husband. It was to prove an immensely successful royal marriage, giving a boost to the Shah's image as a modern-minded monarch, injecting fresh thinking into the court and supplying the vital heir to the throne, Crown Prince Reza, born to great popular acclaim in 1960.
when I got married, I was 21. Of course, in those days, I never realized the scale of work which was waiting for me. And, slowly I became familiar with the problems. But I was very optimistic because, we had the will and the possibility to make our dreams come true.
Farah turned out to be a very hard-working queen, very interested in her job. At the same time, she provided the smiling side of the royal family, while the Shah smiled less and less.
In 1961, the Shah made his most audacious move. He launched a revolution. Called the White Revolution, it promised land reform, the emancipation of women, health and literacy programs, and Western-style modernization. By putting his revolution to a referendum and receiving, according to official figures, 95% of the vote, the Shah was able to claim that the people endorsed his vision of modernization. But it wasn't just the masses who backed the Shah. Western-educated liberals were also swept along by his modernizing zeal.
He would say, you want to make a revolution? I am going to make that revolution because you are not capable of performing it. So I'll do it. And I am going to go very fast, very quick, and you have to run to catch me. That's why most of our generation believed in him.
For the first time, I think, in Iranian history, people were hopeful that they can solve their problems. The country would, not only the country, the individuals in the country could hope for a life of prosperity and success.
Many people also hoped that the revolution would deliver what the nationalist movements of the 50s had not: democracy. But their democratic aspirations were to be frustrated. In order to implement his revolution as rapidly as possible, the Shah